Welcome everybody to this introduction to Cycling Savvy. Cycling Savvy is a traffic cycling educational program from the American Bicycling Education Association, ABEA. This was developed by Kerry Caffrey and Mike Wilson in Orlando, Florida. I've adopted their materials with their permission for this 1-hour introduction. I'll be your host and presenter, and I'm assisted by 3 panelists, Jonas Allen, Michael Burns, and Nadine Ford. A little bit about myself. I'm Gary. I pronounce my last name Zico. Rest of my family tends to say Sico. Some people call me Sicko or Psycho. Whatever works for you is fine with me. I've had lots of experience cycling, and I'm not going to read all of that stuff, but all different aspects. What's important about this, and for the people here, is that despite my 50 plus years of avid cycling, Cycling Savvy was a game changer for me when I took the in-person on-bike course in St. Louis in 2011. And I knew immediately at that time, as an educator outside of cycling, that I had to share Cycling Savvy as best I could with other cyclists. So here we are. So I'll be your moderator. I'll be your presenter and host. So we have 3 panelists. John Allen, the bike expert, as some people know him, is joining us from the Boston area. His camera is not working, but he'll be able to say a little bit about himself and his experience in cycling and what Cycling Savvy means for him. John?
Okay, thank you, Gary. Well, I rode my bicycle today. Only a mile. It's pretty cold today, but I had to get out and get a little bit of exercise. I've been riding a bicycle since I got my first one in 1953, and with a break when I was in high school because um, people didn't ride bikes then. But when I was in college, I got back on the bike, and I've never been without a bike since. Um, I've done utility riding, mostly utility riding, and from when I was in college and up through um, 1970s. And then I discovered recreational cycling, joined a bicycle club, led some bicycle tours. Great place to ride is Massachusetts for bicycle touring. Um, and became a league cycling instructor. Then in 2011, I discovered Cycling Savvy. And like Gary, I was very impressed. I learned new things. So here I've been riding a bicycle for over 50 years. And I discovered things like how to use the traffic lights to make it easier to get onto a street with no traffic behind you. And um, so, okay, I hear I'm not loud enough. I have a little volume control here. How's
That's
that?
better. Yeah, that's better. I just
Okay.
might add to that, you mentioning Cycling Savvy's influence, despite the fact that you had authored probably one of the most widely read and circulated booklets on bicycling safety.
Um, well, thank you. But now there's a cycling savvy version of it,
Right.
and we put in the new stuff as well.
Great. Okay. Well, great that you can be with us. Michael Burns is from the Philadelphia area. Michael?
Good evening, everybody. Coming to you from Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm a professor of English here, regular cycle commuter when campus is open. It hasn't been in a while, and also a recreational cyclist here. And yeah, a long history with bicycles, going back to my youth, riding and starting to work on bikes, and then working as a bike mechanic on and off for 20 years or so. Raced as a junior and raced again in my 30s, and also worked as a bike messenger in New York City for a while. And since then, pretty much recreational cyclist, club cyclist, fast club cyclist, and working on cycling advocacy initiatives. Gary and I actually met at the Bike Project, which is a nonprofit bicycle cooperative in Champaign-Urbana, of which I was a lead volunteer and a mechanic and teacher. And I've since started to reboot those efforts here in Westchester, and hopefully within a year or so, we'll have our own co-op to work with. So really interested in getting youth connected to cycling and using cycling in the context of social justice and spatial justice. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Nadine Ford is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Nadine Ford. I've been cycling my whole life. Recreational, played with some racing, didn't really get into it. And right now I'm part of a board for all women's co-op. We just had our first group of mechanics to graduate 2 weekends ago. We'll start another group in January. I also have a group that's geared towards Black women, older Black women, advocating cycling as a method of health and commuting for them, and worked on the bicycle advisory board for Charlotte, the city of Charlotte, and have been with CyclingSavvy now for, I want to say 2 years.
Great. Okay, so all the panelists are CyclingSavvy instructors, and the three of us pictures there, we're all on the board of the American Bicycling Education Association, the parent organization, and John Allen is chair of the program committee. So thank you very much. Panelists could hide themselves for a little bit now, free up some screen space, and we're going to talk a little bit about first the technical format of what we're going to be doing. This is a webinar, so the time that you spent putting on makeup and combing your hair has been wasted. We will not see you, at least not tonight. We're not going to use the mic chat or hand raising during the presentation, but you can submit questions and comments at any time using the Q&A window. So you can open that up, and those will be viewable by all that are here when a panelist responds to that. Panelists will respond, be invited to make some comments after each section. They may incorporate some of the questions and answers and comments made by the attendees as well. We're going to have a couple of polls. Please participate and quickly so we don't waste too much time. We will have an open discussion at the end of the presentation itself with microphone. And the webinar is being recorded and it will be made available via a follow-up email after a couple days after the webinar. So those are sort of the ground rules. So open up your Q&A window, and I'm really excited to be able to do this coast to coast and have such a, we got close to 200 people here. This is just quite amazing. What we're going to cover, we're going to first take a look at a 5-minute video of what Savvy Cycling is about. We're going to be looking at then 4 questions about Savvy Cycling. Something about overcoming barriers to cycling. CyclingSavvy is about empowerment, being able to go anywhere you want on a bicycle. 4 takeaways to make you a safer and more confident in 50 minutes from now. And you can go from there by looking at resources that we have in CyclingSavvy to make you even more savvy, safe, and have fun on your bike. So we're going to take a look first at, make sure that the sound is off here, at this 5-minute video known as The Dance. And this is Carrie Caffrey in Orlando, Florida, on a cruiser bike, easy pace, 4-lane arterial road, controlling the lane, taking command, and no problem with the motorist going around her. No bike lane there, no shoulder. She's in the lane itself. Here she is communicating. Here, Carrie has to get into the new added right lane because bicyclists are typically in the rightmost lane. She signals using her right hand better than the left and gives a little sign of thanks. Here she is, what we call control and release, controlling traffic on a more suburban 2-lane busy road because of oncoming traffic. And then at a certain point, she moves over and lets the traffic by. Here we have a cyclist who is on the left side of the lane through an intersection to make sure that that oncoming left turning motorist can see her and she can see that motorist and get through safely. Being relevant, being where motorists are looking for traffic, staying in the center, even here moving a little bit over to the staying out of the right turn lane so that motorists can turn right. planning ahead. You're watching this and Carrie looks back and sees, oh, there's a big spot there. I'm going to move over to the center lane. Why is she moving over there? Well, I think we see at the very end of this clip, because that right lane turns into an arm ramp to the interstate, she does not want to ride on the interstate this morning. I noticed that the people on the motor scooter also go right into that lane, and you'll see the right lane is going to diverge. And so she took the opportunity when there was a nice break to move over when she could, instead of waiting to the last minute. Be strategic. Why is this cyclist heading into lane number 2 of 4? I mean, either they're going straight, get on the right, or if they're going to do a left turn, get on the left. Turns out that lane goes directly to not the first left turn, but to the second left turn that she wanted. So by entering that lane, she never had to change lanes again to go exactly where she wanted to be. So that's what we call being strategic, making it easy on yourself and the other road users, being assertive. Don't hesitate to let others know where you want to go. Motorists typically will let you do what you want to do if you communicate. And we find that over and over again. You can help them be better drivers. And that's a dark, rainy day. That's where stopping distances are longer, and you want to be visible and see what's happening. Be aware. This cyclist does have a mirror. Needs to learn to change gears into a higher gear there, but nonetheless, she still looks over her shoulder, and that's a good communication, even if you have a mirror, to let motorists know that you want to get over. And as traffic slows for a red light, that's usually a really easy way to get over, and people let you in, thank you sign, to get ready for your left turn. Being confident. Here, notice that Carrie's riding a little bit left of center because there's a diverge there, and she knows that motorists want to flow around on her right side and get off on that right lane. So there she goes. Night riding, bright headlight in the front makes Carrie look like a motorcyclist from the front. Think about why that's good. And typically a blinking or pulsing red light, in addition to a steady one, is good, so that you look like a bicyclist from behind. You can think about why that's good as well. Now, this is an introduction. All of these topics are covered more completely in our materials, but that gives you an idea of what savvy cycling looks like. So the question comes up, how many cyclists actually drive their bikes in traffic as shown in what we call the dance video? So what you're seeing now is where I usually work. This is my table in my living area, and I am looking out on the north end of Pershing Drive in Los Angeles. You can see the palm trees, Santa Monica Mountains in the back. The north end is a busy, of this street, the whole Pershing Drive is a busy arterial. The left turn at the end of the road goes down to the beach, just a half mile down Culver. I bet I see from this place working a couple of hundred cyclists every week. So I have a pretty good idea of what LA cyclists are like. How many of them drive their bikes as shown in the dance video? Right here, you see my little security camera always looking out. And this is typically what I see. About 95% of the cyclists are right up against the parked cars. If anybody were to open a door, they go flying. All right, almost all of them are there. And whether they're wearing Lycra or not, that's where they tend to be. Occasionally, maybe 2%, I see a cyclist who is more toward the center of the lane, out of the door zone. Now notice this guy's waving to me. Why? Most of these people know me from riding, from taking a savvy cycling course, right? So that's about 2%. Where's the other 3%? Riding or walking on a very narrow Los Angeles sidewalk full of obstructions. You can see one right down there. There's a lamppost further down. Can't even get a large stroller on down the sidewalk. Or they're riding on the left side of the street down the hill to the beach, right? So the bad news is that, at least in my experience, not many cyclists are actually driving their bikes in traffic according to how the system is designed to work. So why is this the case? Why do cyclists leave their driving knowledge from driving in cars, from being passengers in cars? All of these cyclists, and I'm sure all or mostly, almost all of you know how to drive, right? Why do they leave this knowledge behind when they get on their bikes. So this is an interesting question. When I ask people about this and when I show cyclists what we do in Savvy Cycling, they come up with these 4 questions. These are the 4 most common questions. They want to know, number 1, is it legal what you're doing? Number 2, is it safe? Is it 3, isn't this rude? And number 4, isn't it stressful to be out there in front of traffic? So this is an introduction. I'm going to give you what I think are some of the most important arguments or answers to these questions. But before we do that, what I want to do is do first of our 4 polls. And I want you to respond to those questions. So you should see up on your screen, there are 4 different questions asking you, is operating a bicycle as shown in that video legal? And you can strongly agree to strongly disagree. And you'll have to scroll down and there's 3 more questions. Is it safe? Is it rude? And is it stressful? So I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to respond to this, and then I'll share the results and see what we get. And different groups come up with different answers. Let me see how many people have answered. Oh, a lot of people. I think if I look at the back, I'll see, okay. Okay, 10 more seconds. I see they're still coming in. Okay, okay, they seem to be slowing down there. Okay, so I am going to end the poll and let's take a look at what we got here. Wow, 88% understand that this is legal. That's going to shorten this presentation a little bit. So that's good to know that you realize that lane control is usually always legal. That's a big number there. Is it safe? Still, the majority say yes, but there's a little bit more hesitation on the safety aspect of it. So 30% somewhat agree, but that's still pretty good. Neither agree, disagree. Good answers, but not quite as strong. Operating a bicycle is rude. Again, we have most people saying disagreeing with that, which is sort of what I want to see. So that's pointing in the right direction, but not quite as strong as the legal one. And operating a bicycle, as shown in the dance video, is stressful. And we have somewhat agree and strongly agree. And it looks like we're actually more on the stressful side there than we are on the disagree that it is not stressful. So those are some interesting results. So let's take a look now at, did I share the results? Yeah, I think I did. Okay, I meant to be sharing them as I was discussing them there. Okay, so I am going to.
Gary,
Yeah.
John Allen here. We only saw the responses to the first 2.
Oh, really?
You didn't scroll down. I don't know.
Okay, I scrolled down. I think you have to scroll down, John. Or I think the participants did. Yeah, the independent scrolling, okay? So to summarize again, the legal was very much agreement and safe, a little bit less, and maybe a little bit less agreement with doing this is not rude and not stressful. We'll have to see if we can do that next time through. So I'm going to put that away, and I think it's gone. Right. Okay, so let's take a look at the legal aspect. In all states, bicyclists or drivers have the same rights and duties as drivers of other vehicles, with some exceptions in most states. There's a lot to say about this. There are many reasons why it's almost always legal for a cyclist to use a full lane. The most important and common reason is that bicycle travel lanes, traffic lanes, are typically just too narrow to safely share. So a bicyclist needs about 4 feet of operating space, 3 feet of passing distance, as actually required in many states. Motor vehicles are at least typically 6 feet wide. And if you put that all together, 4, 3, and 6, you get 13 feet. How wide is a typical travel lane? Usually 10 to 12. So that's a real shortcut version the bottom line is that bicyclists' use of the full lane is almost always legal because traffic lanes are not safe enough to safely share. And that's an exception in just about every state. Riding far to the right encourages lane sharing with motorists, and it's really not practicable. Even for states who may not have exceptions to riding on far right, they will say as far right as practicable. You could argue it's not practicable on narrow lanes, and those are typical. So you've seen these signs, hopefully in your communities, encouraging bicyclists to be visible and predictable, helps motorists to avoid serious mistakes as well. Hopefully you have some of these in your communities. If not, I hope you advocate for those. Many other legal topics you can find in Cycling Savvy materials. Topics are there. Important stuff to know if you're going to put yourself on the bicycle in traffic. And this is a little bit of a mosaic of the illustrations, animations, photos, and videos that Kerry Caffrey and Mike Wilson have put together. These are from the online course with how to be an expert in the legal aspects of bicycling is all there. So that's the first question. The second one, is it really safe to do this? Putting yourself out in the way, as my friend Pete Van Noy says, get in the way, be safe. That sounds contradictory. People will tell me, okay, well, maybe it's legal. You can be right about what you're doing, but you can be dead right. So safety is certainly an important thing when we're cycling in traffic. Common crash types. So they get an idea of whether this bicycle driving idea is safe. We're going to look at what types of crash types are most common. And I am again going to look at a little poll here. Actually, I'm going to go to the next one because these are the three types of crashes, three main types: solo falls, crashing with another moving bicyclist, or crashing with a moving motor vehicle. So you're going to get a chance now to tell us, poll 2, launch the poll, choose all that apply. I want to know for the group that's with us this evening, 202 right now, which is pretty cool, all that apply. How many of you have had a solo crash, not involving a bicycle or another moving vehicle? That's what it should, moving motor vehicle. For that first one, remember the first time you tried clip-on pedals. And that may refresh your memory a little bit. Crash involving another moving bicycle and a crash involving a moving motor vehicle. So I'm going to wait another 15 seconds to go as people click all that apply. Okay, so we're going to end the poll and take a look and share the results. Okay, so by far the most common was solo crash, not involving another bicycle or moving motor vehicle. This is the most common among you guys. The second is another moving bicycle, and the third is with a moving motor vehicle. So how does that compare to the data that we get when we look at studies? This is from Orlando. 44% solo falls, 18% moving motor vehicle, 17% another bicyclist. So those two are lower, but clearly the solo fall is the most common. What are the types of things that make you fall? Railroad tracks, sand or gravel, potholes, cracks, gutter seams, drain grates, bollards, guy wires. And where do you see most of these? Where are most, not all, where are most of these located? Usually on a sidewalk or edge of the road. So avoiding the sidewalk and the edge of the road will allow you to avoid most of these hazards. So that looks good for getting off the edge. Now, most of you are interested in certainly the crashes with moving motor vehicles. So this is the 18%, we're blowing up this pie chart. This represents the behavior for that little 18% bicyclists with moving motor traffic. Now, when I first saw this in 2011 at the Cycling Savvy course I did took with Karen Carabell and Harold Carabell, it was an instant revelation. I was a professor of educational psychology, University of Illinois at the time. I often taught statistics, and I looked at this and I said, wow, this is a revelation. Why? Number one, it told me why my cycling was really quite safe, because I avoided illegal behavior, which is 33% of the car bike crashes. I stayed off sidewalks, typically 45% of the crashes. So that made me feel good. But the second thing was the icing on the pie chart, if you will, was that I could make my cycling even safer and less stressful, it turned out, by adding these defensive techniques up here in the green slices. So let's take a look at those green slices. Now, these are where the cyclist is behaving legally, but still gets into trouble. These are the most common moving car bike crashes, okay? So we have here what's called the drive out. Bicyclist has the right of way. Typically, they're on the right edge. Car comes out, hits them. We have a left cross when an opposing motorist is turning left across the path of the cyclist. We have what's called the right hook. A motorist turns right in front of you, passes, and then doesn't give you enough clearance, or a side swipe. So what's going on here? Why are these happening? These are happening typically because most cyclists are irrelevant or hidden from a motorist's sight by an obstruction. You can see the tree shadow here, or another vehicle. And another reason is the motorist can just underestimate the bicyclist's speed. And this is particularly relevant if you're a fast roadie, if you're riding an e-bike, right? More likely to happen in those situations, or going downhill. Or the motorist underestimates, in the case of the side swipe, how much space is needed to safely pass and tries to squeeze by. So that's the bad news. The good news is that there is a way to be defensive against this, and it's all the same. It's getting away from the edge so that you can be seen for driving out traffic, so that you're not hidden behind the car in front of you for opposing motorists turning left, that you don't encourage motorists to turn right around you, and you encourage motorists to change lanes. Now, that's a really brief look at the most common crashes and how to avoid them. If you go to the Cycling Savvy Essentials course, which is free, which I will mention, we have beautiful animations of all of those, and you should spend some time getting to understand those. But we're not going to have time to do those now. The other thing you have to worry about is not a moving car, but a moving car door. And so it's really important to realize that this is a common crash, particularly in places where there is high parking turnover. You've all heard about the door zone. Many people will say, oh, stay 3 feet away. That may prevent you having contact with the door, but it doesn't get you out of the startle zone where you may still swerve into traffic, right? And then even if you're out of that startle zone, now you are typically in what's called the close passing zone. So where you really want to be is where the motorists are driving, right? This is what we call the effective lane. This is the part of the lane that is avoiding the door zone and the close passing zone. This is where motorists drive. You can see from the tire tracks. And this is typically, unless the lane is really wide, where you want to be as well. So that's another way why driving your bicycle is making you safe. Final thing I need to mention about safety are trucks. Really briefly, there was a recent Great Savvy Cyclist post about this with videos about turning trucks. Trucks turn wide. It may not look like they're making a right turn because they're starting their turn pretty far left. They have incredible blind spots. They really can't see anything at all down the right side once they make their turn. They have a high weight workload looking in front of them. They're not have a lot of cognitive resources to keep checking behind for cyclists. And they're also moving screens. You get up on the right side, even if you're away from the right side of the truck itself, but if you're behind it, you may not be seen by other motorists. So that's what you need to know, what you need to do. If there's a truck and it may be turning right, do not get on the right side. Do not do that. And if there is truck moves up next to you while you're waiting for light or something, just don't stay there. if you make contact with the truck as it begins its turn, you're going to go under the rear wheels of the trailer, and that is not where you want to be. So sort of a summary is to sort of look at these two different types of cyclists. Here we have an edge riding red cyclist, and you can see all of the hazards that we've talked about that he or she is being presented with, okay? The driving behavior eliminates some of the danger completely. No dooring, virtually eliminates the right hook. The pedestrian we had here in the wrong way cyclist included, no need to worry about that. I didn't mention those earlier. The drive out, the left cross, still possible, but now you have a much better sight line, okay? So these are two different worlds, right? A little story here, when I came to LA in 2013, looking for a house, our real estate broker, agent, found out he was a cyclist, and I showed him some of these things. And he said to me, he actually took me away from my wife to talk to me privately. And he said, Gary, that may work in Illinois. If you try doing that in LA, you are going to die. 7 years later, I'm still alive. Never had a close call with a motorist. I've had close calls with cyclists, wrong way cyclists, unlit cyclists at night. I get a honk. I ride almost every day in LA. I get a honk every few months from an impatient motorist, tells me that they see me. And this is Los Angeles. It's supposed to be the worst place in the world to ride a bicycle. So I feel particularly privileged to be able to share this with you because it really, really does work. So if you get into our other materials, many, many other topics on safety related things. And you can see those there. You can see again some of the animations, illustrations, videos that we use to teach this stuff. To become an expert. How can you ride a bicycle in traffic and not want to be an expert in safety? You have that opportunity. So I'm going to take a little break there and ask our panelists to show up. I haven't been checking the Q&A, so hopefully their faces will show up here. Nadine, Michael, and I know John is just on audio. Now there's Nadine. So what do you got, guys? What do you would like to add to that, or what has been some of the interaction with our attendees? Who's going to go first here?
John, you had a few questions held to answer live. You want to take those first?
Oh, let's see. I just saw the answer live thing up here, but it just said I would like to do it, but I didn't put that up there, so I don't know.
Okay, well, Ken Bennett asked the question, do you feel that there's a posted speed limit range when it is more feasible to practice the things we saw in the video? So I guess to distill the question down, does your speed matter? And does the speed of traffic matter in terms of when we would practice safe cycling?
Well, you want to respond to that?
Well, I would say that speed is not a factor, right? Like the car is always, in most instances, the car will be able to generate more speed than the cyclist. So speed's not necessarily a factor. It's the lane position that's the factor, and your ability to control the lane that's more of a factor than your ability to ride fast or the car's ability to ride at excessive speeds. Yeah. Now, of course, there are going to be some places where if the speed limit is 55, then I would probably recommend you looking for another route. But if the speed limit is 35 or 45, you could practically use these approaches, and it wouldn't be an issue. Right?
Well, when I will show one later on, 360 video, I take those from my cargo bike and I make an effort not to go faster than 15 miles an hour. And the streets can be up to 45 with cars going 50 and plus, and you'll see it's not a problem. But if Ken was saying in terms of practicing these things, start off in streets that you're safe, that you feel good about, that don't have a whole lot of traffic, build up your courage. And this is one reason why the on-bike in-person courses are so important, because you get to actually do this on the road with 2 instructors and other students.
Um,
Anything else related to safety or?
Well, John Hadley asked, is it safer to ride solo or in a Peloton? And I'm assuming this is for recreational riding or cycling. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, well,
And-
they're not talking to you unless he.
Well, I would say. So there's pros and cons to both, right? If we saw from the data that most classes are solo, so if you ride solo, depending on where you are, it may be more of a problem for you to crash by yourself in terms of being able to get help. If you ride in the Peloton, the benefit, of course, is that you can do more with less energy. You can cover more ground. You can generate more speed with less energy. And if the Peloton is safe and they're using everybody's on the same page, then of course it's going to be safe, right?
But the speeds tend to be higher, and that increases the problem. And you have with a Peloton, the danger is more tangling up with other cyclists because you're so visible, particularly in a larger group. I know Nadine does a lot of group riding. Maybe she'll say something about that.
Well, and it depends on the experience of the group. We train our cyclists in Peloton, and it's those first few times is actually a little more dangerous because you have people who may have decided to just come on in because they hear it's a fun thing to do. They may not have experience with clips. So then we have the danger of within the group. As far as cars, I personally feel that it's safer to be in a group because we can move. We're a larger mass, so we can move almost as a vehicle or as a car and take over the lanes better. But again, it's really going to depend on experience, on the coaching, and on communication within a group. Yeah. So that's one of those individual experience type of answers.
Yeah, well, we're focusing on basically solo this week. Next week, we do have a webinar on group and club riding. That is reserved for members of sponsoring clubs, but I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But yeah, there are pros and cons to both of these things. I'm going to move on now and take a look at 2 other questions that come up. Isn't it rude to be doing what we're doing here? Bicyclists are usually slower than motor traffic, not always, but usually, and bicycles are narrow. So isn't it rude for a bicyclist to use a full lane and slow everybody down? So CyclingSavvy really stresses cooperation, communication cooperation, and we include many techniques to allow you to safely release traffic that is behind you. And you will find these techniques nowhere else, okay? And I'm going to give you just one example. There's a challenging stretch of road in my neighborhood, Culver Boulevard. It connects my neighborhood of Playa del Rey with the next neighborhood, Playa Vista, on the other side of the Bayona wetlands. This has high speeds. One of our panelists is not muted in. We hear typing, so just to let you know. It's a 4-lane highway, has a freeway feel, 45, 55 mile an hour speed limit, no intersections, no rideable shoulder or bike lane. I normally just control the right lane. Traffic changes lanes past me, plenty of room. In this particular situation, I get caught at the front of the only intersection in the wet lane, Jefferson and Culver. And I know now, looking back, that when the light turns green, these cars are going to have more difficulty, the motorists getting around me. So what do I do? Okay, let's take a look at what I learned from CyclingSavvy. So the light turns green, all these cars behind me. I say, okay, have at it. I pull off the side. They continue down to the left. This is the traffic that's coming down Culver from Culver City. I wait 9 seconds. I don't wait for all of the traffic. I wait for it to thin out. I can comfortably get back in that lane. The remaining traffic now can easily go around me. When that light behind me turns green for that other traffic, I'll be so far down the road that they'll also have no trouble getting around me. So this is just one of many techniques that we use to release traffic, to be the opposite of rude, to be cooperative. And if you look at the other types of things that we teach, you know, what really delays traffic, I'll tell you, it's not bicycles, okay? And if you drive, you know that. Different types of traffic release techniques, how to interact with uncivil drivers. And these are, again, some of the different techniques that we teach to be cooperative and to make us what I would say, the least rude cyclists on the road, even though we do control the lane when it makes sense for us to do that. Okay, so that has a little bit to do about the rude. I'll mention one thing about stressful. Now this does overlap with the cooperative and rude thing as well, but we also teach many techniques to reduce the stress, particularly on busy roads with fast traffic. This is one that John Allen already mentioned. Here's Carrie. She started on that side street. She could have turned right on red. In most places you can, although the first two places I lived, actually you couldn't. New York City and Montreal, you couldn't do that. I had to get used to it. But instead, she waits for her light to be green. Why? Because it stops all the traffic on the busy road behind her, usually up to 90 seconds, usually more than enough time to get where you want to get through a busy intersection or through an interchange so that you can now go on your way to get away from the traffic. But often these big interchanges, intersections will create a roadblock or a barrier, and we show how you can get through these very easy. This is the first feature we do in the on-bike course in Cycling Savvy typically. So we teach many traffic release techniques, other ways of making left turns, plan Bs and plan As as well. Another thing, looking back at the edge red cyclist and the driving behavior green cyclist, once you start to understand this, that even though it may seem funny being out in front of traffic, that really you are in a different world in terms of the danger that you are, the hazards that you're being faced with. It helps you to understand and actually feel much less stressful. Now, one thing that helped me a lot is that I started using a helmet-mounted mirror so I could check the traffic behind me. Not obsess about it, but check back once in a while and to see what's going on. So I think this helped me as well. And I can give you a little example from a Savvy Cyclist article that I wrote on riding a bicycle in what many consider to be the worst city to ride in the US, Los Angeles. And in addition to that, I picked a street on our HIN. HIN is High Injury Network. Can you imagine we have such a thing? These are the most dangerous streets and what some people consider the worst place to ride a bike, the worst city to ride a bike. So what's that look like? So let's take a look at a little bit of this. I got to stop the audio if I can, because that's okay. So let me open this up and give you an idea. This is a Lincoln Boulevard. What's really nice about this is that you can look behind and you can see how fast I'm going, and fair amount of traffic, moving pretty well, pretty good speed. I'm going pretty slow. Why is this guy so long behind me? And it always turns out the case that if somebody's behind you for a block or a block and a half, even 2 blocks, why are they there? I think it's going to show up in a little bit. Finally, you see the red turn, you see the right turn blinker go on. He's making a right turn. He didn't feel like going around me. Okay, so traffic has no problem. And when I found out that this road that I use quite often to go to Santa Monica, to my health appointments, was on this high injury network, I'm just wondering, why is that the case? And so you can see, it looks kind of fast from the back and front. If you go from the side, you can realize how slow I really am going. It is not a problem. And this is just normal. There's my rear view mirror that I check once in a while. So you can see a lot more of these if you go to my YouTube channel. Just punch in my name and I have 360 videos from all over LA and in some other places as well. These are the other stress-related topics that we look at in Savvy Cycling, understanding the roadway, all of these types of things to make you feel more confident. The only place you're going to get information about different types of interchanges and bicycle-specific infrastructure. Many ways they provide a convenient and safe feeling place to ride a bicycle, but they have hazards of their own, and you really need to know what those are to use bike lanes, bike boxes, cycle tracks, shared use paths, etc. So all of that information we have in our lessons as well. So let's take another little break there. Panelists, we get any kind of questions or answers about the stressful or rudeness aspect of savvy cycling?
I've been typing in answers to a few questions here. I haven't been keeping up with them all. Have other panelists been looking at them and have some answers?
Yeah, I've been peeking in here. Paul asked if there is a legal precedent of successful pushback of townships or counties installing bike lanes in the door zone. So in other words, have people been able to advocate to have bike lanes installed outside of the door zone?
Well, I don't want to really get into infrastructure so much. Those are important things, certainly.
Okay. Right. The other comments then are just folks offering their personal experiences in terms of cycling savvy being beneficial, and then other folks just corroborating that the vehicular cycling or bicycle driving has worked, and other folks are sort of bemoaning their particular regional stressors.
Okay.
I'd like to answer Kathy Shapiro's question. In a city that isn't used to bikes riding cycling savvy way, does it make drivers angrier? Two things about that. One is that the first principle here is to understand yourself as having the right, the equality, the right to use the road and to stand up for yourself as a bicyclist, as a driver on the road with a bicycle. And occasionally you will find people who do get angry, but on the other hand, you'll find that a lot more drivers treat you better because you are treating yourself better, because you are visible, because you are cooperating rather than just sort of slinking along at the side of the road. Cooperating also means being assertive, and it also means being cooperative. You move aside onto the shoulder if it's there and driver can pass you safely, that sort of thing.
And the little friendly waves when you appreciate somebody who was behind you, God forbid, 30 seconds because there was oncoming traffic and they waited back until it was safe to pass. This is some people who hear a little bit about cycling savvy, oh, they're road warriors. They just get out there and block up the lanes. And that is not the case. The most enjoyable part of this is actually being assertive, but at the same time being aware and cooperative and just having, in Los Angeles, a great time riding a bicycle. And like I say, I can't remember now the last time I got a honk. It must be over 6 months. It's surprising how well it actually works. So a couple of things I wanted to add to this then, mention a few things about barriers. Certainly, some people think cycling in traffic is seen as dangerous and stressful, and that's what Cycling Savvy can really help you with. If you're savvy, you realize that it doesn't have to be dangerous. It really isn't dangerous and doesn't have to be stressful if you practice what we do. But there are also what I call the twos. These are barriers to cycling. Too far, too long, too hard, too many hills, it's too windy, I'm too sweaty, I'm too old. And there is a solution here. I know Nadine has used this solution. I have a couple of times. I don't know if John or Michael have. And e-bikes are revolutionizing bicycling. I look out my window there and I see sometimes it seems like half the bikes coming up that hill are e-bikes. They are all over the place. And I think the pandemic has done something to to increase them as well. So put this together with knowing how to drive a bicycle in traffic is a really powerful combination. My two grandchildren here in Eugene, Oregon, and their mother, she takes them to school. There's a steep, long hill before the school. She could not do this on a regular bike. She has an e-bike. She gets exercise. The kids get out. They get fresh air. They have fun. And this is made possible by the e-assist of this Bike Friday cargo bike. So that's something that you should definitely consider. These are my 4 takeaways for this introduction, but a lot more to learn. The first 2 are things that you have absolute control over. Avoid the door zone, avoid right turning trucks. Just don't be there. Trucks just can't appear out of nowhere and take you down. Cars can't leap off out of the parking lane and open their door in front of you, right? You have complete control over 2 quite common causes of serious bike crashes by avoiding the door zone and staying away from right turning trucks. The third one is what I just mentioned. Consider an e-bike if it's going to remove your 2 borders from your bicycling, barriers from your bicycling. You may be able to go places that you didn't think you could with an electric bike. This is really, I think, it is revolutionizing transportation and the bicycling world. And the last one is take advantage of the takeaway of the resources of CyclingSavvy. I think the most important thing everybody here should do is get a copy of Street Smarts. This is our panelist, John Allen's, recently updated with illustrations by the marvelous Carrie Caffrey. This is probably the most single savvy thing you can do to follow up on this introduction. 48 pages of bicycling, traffic, and cycling wisdom by John Allen, first published back in 1987. Just $5 from CyclingSavvy.org, the web store. Bulk prices available for your club or organization. Go to Amazon, $4.99, Kindle ebook, free if you have Amazon unlimited subscribers. And I hear somebody typing again. So definitely look into getting Street Smarts. And this is your stocking stuffer. Laura Hallam says if you get these orders in by the end of the week, you most likely will get them before Christmas. So that's got to be number 1 for sure. And I didn't discuss this with John, and he's not giving me any commission on sales. Although, I mean, I wouldn't maybe refuse a kickback here or there. But anyway.
But I have to admit, I do get a royalty on this. But on the other hand, and CyclingSavvy, organization gets money from it too. But hey, we put down the money to publish it, so there
Right.
we are.
Yeah. Oh, it really is great.
It's not expensive if you buy it in quantity. And,
No, I mean, and would cyclists pay for other types of things? It's free for $5, considered free. Let's look at some of the other resources quickly. We have a free. $5 is too expensive. We have a free Essentials mini course. Check it out. You will need to become a free member of CyclingSavvy. You'll see some of the animations for those hazards we were looking at. You'll also get notified of CyclingSavvy, what's called the Savvy Cyclist articles, all kinds of topics, just about every week, cycling with children, commuting, safety equipment, how to have fun cycling in the worst city in the US, my article. So that's available and free. We have our online courses on demand. These are lifetime access to our basic and mastery courses for lifetime. You will get all future courses. We're working on courses for clubs and group rides. I hear typing again.
Sorry about
CyclingSavvy for families and children is something that we're planning to do. 50% discount. There's about 3.5 hours of lessons there for you to become an expert in these things. And it's $50 during this time of pandemic. We want to really encourage people to get savvy. We have our on-bike in-person courses. These are amazing. You actually get to travel. We take novices who are riding on the sidewalk And over the course of 3 hours, they will be riding over an interchange, making a left turn at the next surface street, changing lanes in the middle of high-speed traffic. Well, actually doing it the smart way when there's a big gap. Really quite amazing. One of the problems with COVID time now is we can't do the classroom part of this course. So now we have Cycling Savvy Now. These are 4 weekly 1-hour sessions. These are, unlike this webinar, these are small. They don't have 200 people. We have 20, maybe 15. And mic is open throughout, small group and interactive. There is one beginning, if I can read that, January 6th. And I think it's $32 for the 4 sessions. And so that's another way for you to get more in depth with our Cycling Savvy instructors. So check that out. Next week, same time, same station, different URL, Cycling Savvy for bike clubs and groups. I'll be back. My panelists will be back. They've all had group riding experience. This is something that is not yet on any course. We're developing this. You will need to have a sponsoring bike club. Tell your bike club leaders you want to do this. They can get in touch with me and get you hooked up to be able to register for the next webinar. And
Gary, if I may to pop in, you said the classroom sessions are not available online. Well, I'm sorry, not available in person. There are on-bike sessions happening in connection with the online classroom sessions.
Right.
If you go to the CyclingSavvy.org site, you'll see a couple of them listed. I have one planned for Boston in the spring, Boston area. There's one in St. Louis. There'll be others popping up.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that the on-bike was not happening. I meant to say the classrooms. We can't do the classroom stuff.
Right.
And we're substituting the classrooms with the Savvy Cycling Now. So certainly go to CyclingSavvy.org, look at where the events, what's happening, it's all there. And you can prepare for the on-bike by doing the Savvy Cycling Now series.
And will we follow COVID precautions? We've modified the group rides somewhat.
Right.
To meet the guidelines.
Okay, so that really is what I wanted to cover in terms of an introduction, and I hope you see this all as a beginning of a new chapter of empowered savvy cycling. John, Michael, Nadine, and I sincerely hope that you will follow this up with practicing new ways of approaching your cycling and using the resources so that what Cycling Savvy has done for us, it can do for you as well, as John continues to type.
Oh.
And his mic. That's okay. Panelists, come on back, and anything that you want to add or share from the Q&A people before we start letting people raise their hands and talk to us. Or should we go right to it?
Yeah, I've had great fun trying to answer questions in the chat. So I'm okay for now, though. We can go ahead and move on.
Yeah, okay. So basically now, what we're going to do is allow people to, if you want to talk, and I think Nadine said that she will try to organize this here, is we will stick around for a while and just make this interactive now that we've gotten over the main part of the what I wanted to cover anyway. Now, do we see hands coming up? I don't see any here. There's got to be some people who want to share some of this. Okay, I see 2 hands. Nadine, can you see those? Okay, we have, I can see, I'm going to take them on top then. Lisa Reese, oh, did she disappear?
Yeah.
Lisa, are you, can you open your mic? There you go.
Hey guys, I just want to tell you thank you for your time tonight. Very informative information, and we appreciate it.
Okay, well, great to have you with us, and I hope you follow up on the other resources that we have. Work down the line. Jeanette?
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi from New York. Just wanted to ask a question as to whether or not your Department of Motor Vehicle out of each of your states, wherever you're located, are actually taking any initiatives to have bike law questions on any of the permit testing or on any of the driving tests. I'm finding there's a gap. Our motorists in New York don't seem to be understanding some of the
Yeah.
rules of the road, yet we're putting people in cars
Yeah.
and they don't understand bicycles. So California are there?
We've had some success with that. We have a group called California Association of Bicycle Organization, CABO, and we've been able to get things in the driver manual, not to our complete satisfaction, but there has been improvement there. So that's something that you could definitely look at. Michael or Nadine, or what's happening in your states? Are you familiar with the manuals?
We don't have anything for drivers yet. We are working on a zero, I forget the name of the program now, but we are working with the Department of the DMV to get something on there, but right now we don't have it.
Okay, well, that's certainly an important thing to do.
Like
Michael?
Philadelphia metro area has a Vision Zero program, whereby there's some, the Philadelphia Bike Coalition is heading up those initiatives to help both in terms of signage, street markings, and also legislation too. Out here in the suburbs, no, not really.
Yeah.
Most of the efforts are on trails, and so there's some regulation around those, but nothing in the driver's manuals or permits. Thank you for mentioning.
And
Yeah.
thank you very much for that. Also, with the rise and interest in e-bikes, I'm seeing some issues. I think they're great. An e-bike is better than a car on my roads. But what I'm also seeing are the e-bikes are on trails, which don't seem to be an appropriate place for them, because you've got parents who wouldn't ride on the roads with their little kids, and they're on the trails, and there's walkers. It seems to be more of a mixed use for pedestrians, walkers, runners, exercise bike riding. And then you have these e-bikes, which are going pretty rapidly. Are you guys seeing problems on your trails? I think they're great for roads, one less car, but I'm not liking them on the trails.
Yeah, I see here in Los Angeles, this in Southern California, these problems have been emerging, but it's not just the e-bikes. I see groups of cyclists riding 22 miles an hour on some of the shared use paths. So there's the problem of speed, and it's an issue, and it just is something that the cyclists need to give the same consideration on shared use paths to pedestrians and other users that we expect motorists to give bicyclists. It's the same kind of thing. And that's an important part of education, that through legislation, but I think education is really important. Anybody else on that?
I am an e-bike user, and one of the things I stress is, the bike is really designed just to have pedal assist. It's not meant to zoom through. And when I'm working with a group, or if we're out on an e-bike, that's one of the things that because we'll take the paths depending on the experience of the other cyclists. But again, I tell them it's just for pedal assist. For the most part, I leave it in 0 or 1. We're not trying to go 15 miles per hour on a multi-use path. So it's an education thing. And as Gary said, it's not so much the e-bike, it's the user or the motor that makes the bike go fast.
Yeah. Okay, let's say Susan Hoffman.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for doing this. Gary, you said that when people get on a bike, they leave their driving knowledge behind And I was wondering, I thought that was a good observation. It's something I see too. And I'm wondering why you think that is.
Well, I mean, we talked about that. I mean, people know how to drive, but they don't think that bicyclists should be drivers. They sort of see them like ped rollers or edge riders or something like that, which makes them more difficult. I mean, this is what we're trying to do in Cycling Savvy, is to say that, I mean, you know how to, if you look at that dance video, if instead of cyclists, that was a slower guy driving a car, you wouldn't think anything of it. This is just normal. But the fact that they're cyclists, wow, are they really out there in the middle of the lane? Wow, they're not even in the rightmost lane. What's going on? But we do this all the time when we're driving. So it's just, you know, John Forrester called it the cyclist inferiority complex, that we didn't think we deserve to use the roads the same way that other users, motor vehicle drivers do. So that's probably, this is what we're trying to educate. Just a thing on education too. We were talking about the motor vehicle manuals, but think also, when I get on my bicycle, I'm educating all those motorists around me that have a good and positive interaction with me, that know I'm predictable, that I'm courteous to, that I wave to. That's education, and you can all do that, every one of you, and that helps change the culture, which is what we're trying to do, and that's part of changing the culture.
Sure, yeah. It's just that when I'm riding my bike and I take the lane, I'll see somebody come out and they'll be on the edge, and and I kind of struggle with other cyclists in the club riding on the edge, and I'd
Yeah.
like to, bring more people to the knowledge of Cycling Savvy and
Yeah.
taking the lane and doing the dance. And I've found it personally to be very empowering and safe. And I just would like other people to see that too.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna go over to John Brooking. Allowed to talk. I think I clicked it. John?
Oh yeah, I had to take mute off too. Hi. I just wanted to respond to the caller from New York about asking about questions about bicycling knowledge in the driver's ed courses or in the driver's exam. I just wanted to mention that Maine does have that. I think it's I don't know if it's a statute or a policy or something, but we do have about a page, I believe, in the driver's manual that the students get. And there is one or two questions on the exam. I don't recall off the top of my head exactly what they are. But if you want to find out more, you can contact the Bicycle Coalition of Maine, bikemaine.org, and someone there would be glad to tell you about that.
Okay, thank you, John. We have Paul. Oh, I'm having trouble with my cursor a little bit here. Paul Mickey Weitz, you have to unmute yourself.
Great, thank you very much. Just wanted to say yes regarding the caller from New York. New Jersey has added some language to their driver education specific to dealing with cyclists, people on bikes. So wanted to say that. I want to give a quick shout out. Andrea and Paul, say hello to Michael Burns from our graduation class last year down in Orlando. And also, yes, thank you all for doing this. I think the secret sauce to Cycling Savvy is an extra dose of courtesy and communication. That's been my biggest takeaway, and being really clear about where you need to be out there. So thank you all for doing this.
Yeah, well, thank you for being part of this. We have, who did I click? I meant to hit Eric Da Silva.
And you did.
Okay.
My question is, how does the Cycling Savvy philosophy approach instruction with youth cyclists? Is there an appropriate age where this type of philosophy begins to work? And at what age below does it not work well for safety reasons or even maturity reasons, really? Thank you.
Yeah, well, Michael, you got kids of your own there. Maybe you're good to answer that one.
Yeah, so I think when the young person is able to ride by themselves, then I think it's appropriate to have them take the Cycling Savvy approach. if they're not old enough to ride by themselves, then they could practice those, to do the approach with the adult, right, with their adult, I think.
Yeah, well,
I can
also,
remember though, even from the time my oldest son was riding, from the time he was in first grade, when we rode, we would road cycle together, and I taught him how to ride out in the road, and especially like watching the door zones and stuff like that. Like we would practice that from the time he was 7 or 8 years old. Yeah.
if I may add, I have a son, he's now 29 years old. We started out riding on a tandem bicycle, and there are also these trailer bikes, although I think the tandem, or if the kid can pedal it. My son learned all about the rules of the road and how to be safe on the road before he was old enough to ride a bike by himself. I restricted where he was allowed to ride until I was confident in his abilities. Same when he started to drive a car. He doesn't ride the bike now much, but he's a very good and cautious motorist, and I'm proud of him.
Yeah, great. Well, we are planning to come up with eventually family cycling with children course for Cycling Savvy as well. And there's a lot of videos we've already done up in Montana with a group up there that is into children, actually pedestrian safely they started with, and we moved into bicycling. So we just need time and resources to make this all happen. Roger Reddish, you have to unmute yourself. Nope, I guess he is not there anymore, maybe. Nope. Kathy Shapiro?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. More of a comment. I just wanted to thank you guys. It was really informative. It's really confirming to me about the communicating with drivers, because I tend to do that. I think I've learned a lot. I don't think I am as assertive, but I've always communicated, and it was just kind of intuitive. So it was really affirmative to hear that. And I also wanted to comment that I'm just really impressed by the diversity on this panel, coming from, like White Orange County. It's really inspiring to see the diversity, gender and race, and all of you, and also the diversity among the type of cycling that you all do. Like you've kind of all brought in the utility cycling, the recreational, and the racing. And so I'm just really inspired to see what you guys have going, and the wide range that you're reaching. Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks for the comments, and tell your friends about us. That's great. Let me see who else we have here. Tanya Williams, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much for bringing this information to us. I have a question that is, I live in a very remote area, and where most of the times you don't see cars, or you can't hear them because you're going downhill. I'm up in the San Gabriel, on the backside of the San Gabriel Mountains, Angeles Forest area. And so I'm just wondering, I'm pretty much a solo cyclist. If I hear a car, if I see a car coming, do I just get in the middle lane, or what do you recommend as far as controlling the lane? I mean, excuse me, it's not a middle lane. There's a to and fro. There are two lanes.
Yeah, right.
Going in opposite directions. So what do you recommend in situations such as that?
I recommend that you take the online course, the online course which deals with these types of things in the different situations, when it's safe to let a motorist by, when you want to be using passive communication by controlling the lane, when you want to be more assertive and actually stick your hand out because you see somebody coming and then they might try to get around you. It's more nuanced than I can give you as a simple answer, but we have a lot of information about that online, and I think you learn a lot from from going through the online materials and the any of the other courses that we have. Certainly the on bike and the Cycling Savvy now as well. But that's hard. Yeah, there are times when if you're going up, if there's a decent shoulder, I'll just ride along the right edge and I'm going slowly and cars go around with no problems. Other times it's narrow and I'm coming around a right turn and I know there's going to be oncoming traffic or see it, and I'll get out there and I'll control the lane. But it really depends upon what's safest at that moment.
Mhm.
Is the best I can do at this point, unless Michael has something to add to that, or John.
Yeah, I'd go with that, Gary. I mean, my initial thought, if just visualizing the space as you described it, I would say the default position would be to hold the lane, and then you just by lane position, whether you're holding the lane to the center or moving to the right, then you can communicate to the cars what you want them to do. But
Okay.
it's better rather than ride all the way to rather than edge ride and then move out into the lane as the car is approaching. It's better
Right.
to be in the lane and then move to the right to let the car through would be the default for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I've been finding myself doing is going out with my gravel bike. So if I hear it, then I can just go in the dirt.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Leo Jed to unmute.
Hi, Gary.
Yeah. Hi, Leo. What's up?
Hey. Yeah, in terms of the previous callers question, I agree with Michael. Default would be control the lane and then release the lane when it's safe for you to do so. But anyway, that's not why Gary, thanks for doing this. Thanks for CyclingSavvy and ABEA for doing this. And let me ask you to maybe do a quick overview of what you have planned for next week's group cycling presentation. So some of the participants can try to get their clubs or organizations to participate.
Yeah, well, if you go to the Savvy Cyclist, it's hard to get back there now. Article. If you go to Savvy Cyclist under our website, you should be able to find it. Okay, here it is. So you can also look at it as a Facebook group. And we're going to just be looking at all kinds of aspects of group riding that I've been working on since I came to Southern California in 2013. I've been riding with some of the local groups here and taking a lot of videos and trying to see what it's like from the perspective of group riders and even the racers, how to make the ride safer. So you can actually see right in the picture that you're looking at there. Is that being shared?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the Pacific Coast Highway moving up into Malibu. And you see where I am? I'm in the shadow, right?
Right.
And I am moving out to control that lane, and I will shout forward, clear back, move left, because we lose one lane at Temescal there. So that's changing lanes from the rear. We're looking at all kinds of things that many of you would never think of. Sometimes we control 2 lanes on a group ride in certain places. How to handle tricky issues, mid-group red lights, stop signs, how to avoid as many lane changes as possible, because every time you make a lateral change in a group, you risk crossing wheels and having problems. So it'll be a whole list of topics. And if you go to the Facebook, go to my page and look at events, and you'll see a list of the topics right there.
I sure hope your fellow riders aren't yelling at you to move to the right.
Oh, no, we've been through that already. I've worked with them for 7 years now. We're fine. We even demonstrated what we're doing with the CHP and the sheriff deputies, and we did a ride along. And I showed up in court 5 times to fight tickets for controlling the lane on the PCH. So we've made incredible progress in our group rides, not just my clubs, but many of the clubs.
Way back.
So thanks for being here and for the question. We got one more here that has a hand up. Karen?
What? No.
Karen, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, we have a lot of riders in our community who are using bicycles for basic transportation. They're mostly sidewalk cyclists, or they're what I call contra cyclists. They ride against traffic.
Oh, yeah.
How do we reach out to those people? I work with our community traffic safety team trying to get law enforcement to do some proactive stuff. Most of these are Hispanic riders. I've even done some posters in Spanish, but just, because when there are accidents, those are usually the ones who are hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do we reach those people? Because I even started a Facebook page for our county with
Yeah.
cycling and other things. How do we reach them?
Well, look to see what kind of groups you already have set up. Do you have bike projects, workshops? Do you have bike loan programs that are reaching these communities and going through there? We have a lot of that in LA. Frankly, I haven't done much with them yet. I've just been so busy with other things. But that's a really important group. And I think it's important to use what leverage you may already have from wherever you can get it. Michael, you're the man on this. Come on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gary. Take the grounded approach. Where are what pillars constitute the cycling community in your area, right? Where do those folks go to get their bikes repaired? Where do they go to get where do they go to meet other cyclists? Start there and see what's available, and then maybe buy a box or two of the Safe Cycling Handbook to have on hand for folks. Right?
Well, which we're trying to get translated into Spanish as a project, and we'll see if that pans out. But yeah, that would be a great thing to do as well. But
I do get handouts and posters from the Florida Department of Transportation in Spanish and leave them at laundromats and things. We don't have a bike shop in our town, and in the summertime, I'm the only cyclist on the road. So
yeah. Well, keep at it and do what you can. The Florida Bicycling Association has been very active in things in education. That's actually where CyclingSavvy started. So you might check with them as well.
yes, I'm working with them with their bicycle infrastructure program to try to even get some signs in our county.
Right. Great. Well, those are all of the hands I think we treated already. I'm going to lower all the hands, and if somebody was overlooked, pop it up again, and we'll give you one more shot if you'd like to say something or have a question. Okay, Ron, boy, you're showing up on one window, but not the other. Okay, Ron, unmute.
Unmute. Okay, there we are. You hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Gary and all of CyclingSavvy staff, I want to thank all of you for what you do, because I took the course in Orlando in 2014, and even at as a 45-year cyclist and even an LCI at that point, I still learned things. So it's been a tremendous improvement in what you guys are doing, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for that. As far as still learning things, when I go through the Mastery Online course, I've been through most of those lessons at least twice, some of them 3 times. Each time I learned something new, believe it or not. And I tell Carrie, this is embarrassing. I shouldn't be learning anything new by watching the again. But it is so rich, and to not take advantage of what CyclingSavvy has put together just makes no sense for cyclists.
Well, what I will do, in fact, having seen that these courses are continuing to evolve, is I will avail myself of more of it. It brings up something else, though, that I'd mentioned. Says when I really first got serious cycling back in the, well, I started in the early 70s. By the late 70s, I was involved with a club in Ohio that was really, really good with safety and training. And when I'd go on road rides with them, they would, I mean, I thought I knew how to ride a bike when I joined the club, but I didn't. So, you know, I learned pace line techniques and group techniques and some road safety things, but not like what I've learned since.
Yeah.
But regardless, what I've found, having been a member of quite a number of clubs since, is that something's been lost in the last 20 years. So many newer riders out there, even older people that are riding, and younger or older, and they don't have a clue how to work around other cyclists, let alone good traffic rules. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly trying to tell riders, don't ride up the right side of that truck. Get out of the door zone.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of knowledge that's not getting passed along like it used to, like I learned under.
Well, the free essentials course that we have, the essential short course, it goes through the basics, and that would be one way to let people know about that.
Yeah, I preach that gospel all the time.
Okay, great. I think we're going to do one more here. Eugene Schmitz, you'll have to unmute. You had your hand up.
There we go.
Yeah, we hear you. Hi.
Yeah, I just really wanted to say I appreciate all the focus on communication and how important that is. One of the habits I've gotten into riding, usually solo, and on 2-lane roads, one lane each direction around where I live. When I see a car in my mirror coming up behind me, maybe a couple 100 feet away, I'll just put my left hand up, sort of like a little hello, hi, how are you? I know you're back there, kind of wave, and then either hold my position or maybe when the oncoming, if the oncoming lane is clear, I'll move over a couple feet to the right tire track and to again give them communication that, yeah, go ahead, go right by me, by splitting lanes sometimes, but usually going to the next lane. And I've eliminated virtually all instances of anybody honking at me.
Yeah, well, that's good. The one of the things that can be effective then is just, if you know somebody's being held back a little bit behind you, just turning around and looking at them. Now they see your face. They know you're human. They know that you know you're back there and you're not oblivious. And that can get you a whole nother 30, 40 seconds without a problem in many cases. So just Serge Isikoff, I call this the Isikoff look back from San Diego, who's the one who keeps pushing this. And I think it can be very effective as well, and keeping tempers down and keeping people patient. So good luck with that, and keeping safe. Okay, so I think that's about it. I'm glad that people were able to share their comments and questions. I think Nadine had to leave us. John, you're still there? Any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm here. I had an interesting question actually from Roger Reddish in Colorado Springs. He said, oh, well, it's a day-and-a-half drive to get to a cycling savvy class or course. And I'm answering, I typed an answer that we've had courses where instructors will come to a community and teach there. Another possibility is to find people in your community who want to become instructors. That isn't going to happen for another year, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. You need to take the course first and then take the training. But hey, we'd love to have instructors in Colorado Springs. That's the big bicycling community there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we'd like to get some more instructors. Michael, anything final?
Oh, this was great. I'm really pleased that so many folks were interested, and I'm glad I got a chance to take part. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, great to have you with us. And I think I said that this is probably the largest CyclingSavvy event we ever had. So we'll have new records. We had upwards of 200 people here. So that is really great. We hope that many of you will show up next week if you're club riders or group riders and get your clubs involved and learn some new savvy stuff, and certainly get John's book for yourself for Christmas, for your friends, and go from there and check out all the other resources we have here on CyclingSavvy for you. Okay, everybody stay healthy, stay safe, and great talking with you all.